In this lesson, we're going to be talking about where you are now, in particular in your art, and how you got here. Because we can't take the next stage in the journey to get to point B until we know how we got to point A. So why you're here in the course is because you're looking to go from point A, where you are now, to point B, where you want to be. You're here because there's a gap between those two places that you're not quite sure how to bridge. So it's about the gap itself between where you are and where you want to be. There's a common misconception around that gap. There's a sort of agreement or understanding that information alone can fill that gap and get you across it to point B, where you want to be. But the truth is, it's not usually missing information. So hear me say that again. It is not usually missing information. It's not the next best strategy for growing followers on Instagram. It's not how to make your Facebook page convert more. It's about alignment between your core driver, your why, and your desired success. It is about lining those two up so it becomes a smooth running engine, the engine that's inside of you. Because it's not about external stuff. It's not about those strategies. It's not about the latest whatever, fill in the blank, yada, yada. It is about changing ourselves inside so that we can envision that success and actually name what our desired success is. So what really causes the gap is a set of limiting beliefs that we've had and maybe not even been aware of. It's not owning our why, not being intentional about our path, not acknowledging what we want, not really admitting what our desired success is. And when we don't do that, we don't have a clear way, a clear bridge across the gap. And in fact, the gap gets wider. So in the last lesson, we dug down really deep. That's probably the deepest lesson in the whole course. And we identified our core driver, your big why. The thing that is what you would do if you could only do one thing when you get out of bed in the morning. So for me, I'm a maker, and my secondary driver is as a nurturer. And I know at least several others who've been through the course have the same pairing. Some have it in reverse, but it can be any kind of different combination, but it is what is unique to you. So remember to go back and look for those themes and identify your overall big why. In this lesson, we're going to be looking at our path up to this point, what got us here. It's that next step in figuring out how we're going to create a roadmap to get to our point B. So I have a link both down below and in this lesson's workbook to one of my most inspiring mentors. Doesn't even know he's one of my mentors. I'm a big fan of Wolf Kahn. Wolf Kahn is a contemporary American painter, born in Germany, had to flee Nazi Germany, and came to the United States where his father was a conductor. Kahn grew up around the arts in the heyday of New York as the center of the art scene. But he didn't take the normal route towards artistic success at that time, but he was very intentional about the path that he took. So I've gone back and listened to every video of him talking about his work that I can find. Not so I paint like Wolf Kahn, because I don't, but because he pioneered a path that I want to take. So I want you to start looking for the mentors that are out there who are just a little bit ahead of you, who can show you the way, not just the path, but what those opportunities are that are out there, what those possible successes are. Kahn has not become a multi-billionaire as an artist, but he's developed a comfortable living and is able to share his love of painting with a wide range of people in a whole variety of ways, not just selling his paintings. That's what drew me to him. So if you want a little inspiration, click the link and watch the interview with him, because it talks about how he got from there to there. Look for other artists that you particularly are attracted to, and see if you can figure out what is the alignment between what you want and what they have. And then look at how they got there. So I wanted to tell you a quick story before I'm going to let you dive into this lesson's workbook, which really requires you to do it pretty much on your own because it's numbers about you. But a quick story about one of my students named Sally. Sally came to my courses 3 years ago. After her children grew up, she had put art behind her. She'd studied it in undergraduate school, but she'd left it behind as she raised her children and lived in a small rural community. That community didn't have a whole lot of access to the arts, so that's why she ended up looking online. She absolutely is a maker in her primary why, and she unleashed that maker to great effect. But her secondary type, her secondary why, has to do with connecting to her community. She's very much of an activist. And our perception of what an activist is can be kind of narrow and limiting. So I wanted to tell you a little bit about how she has found success as an activist with that as being one of her driving whys. And she's done it through her paintings. So she paints barns, not unlike Wolf Kahn paints barns, but not traditional kind of picturesque paintings of barns. Nothing wrong with those, but that's not what she's doing. She's doing very large contemporary paintings of barns. And one of her desired outcomes was to get gallery representation. Her other desired outcome, the one that aligned with her activist bent, was to help preserve the barns that are disappearing from the rural communities around where she lives. As our culture changes and shifts, and as we become more urban, even in rural localities, those traditional architectural structures are falling away and going into disrepair and disuse. So she travels around and takes photographs of those barns, then makes large paintings, posts about those barns, and has participated in exhibitions about those architectural structures. And now, 3 years later, she is in 3 contemporary art galleries, represented by 3 galleries, and has a major museum solo exhibition scheduled for the upcoming year. It didn't happen because of some magic strategy or formula around building followers and numbers on Facebook or Instagram, although she uses those. It came because she was very intentional about what she wanted, and then looked for the structures, the paths, the vehicle that was going to get her there. That's what I want you to start letting percolate back here in your mind, so that as we move into the next lesson, those desires can emerge. So again, she got very, very clear about what she wanted. Clarity brings action. We're not going to do a whole lot of acting yet, but the clarity that you achieve around where you are, how you got here, and where you want to go is going to help you take action very quickly in moving in that direction. So before we take action, though, I want you to assess where you are. What got you here? And all the while remembering that what got us here won't get us there. The same vehicle that we took to get here is not necessarily the one that's going to take us there. I might drive my car to the airport to get somewhere, but that's not going to get me to New York or LA. I have to get on a plane to get to that destination. So I want you to get very clear that what got you here is not going to get you there. But you have to know how you got here first. So there's no judgment about where we are. We are each at different points. We are all, though, at our current point A. And we all are at the point where we want to get to our future point B. Remember, I said that we go through this path, this cycle, the painter's path, every time we get to a new growth stage. So that final step that I talked about, the amplification is also the first step. That's where we are right now, where we are coming through. Amplification to the mindset. We know we want to amplify, but we're not sure what the next steps are to do that. So our reflection is on where we are, and our assessment of it is just the description of the beginning point, our point A, of where we are now. We have to know where we are before we can find a path to cross the gap to point B. So let's dive into assessing our point A. I want you to download and open the workbook for lesson 3. And I really want to urge you to write this out in longhand. Don't type it. Our brain processes information in very different ways when we write it out by hand. So remember, nobody cares about your handwriting, your spelling, your punctuation, your grammar. This is all for you. Nobody else has to look at it. But you are going to make a more direct connection to it when you write it out by hand. So use whatever shorthand you need to use to do it, but print this out and write it out by hand. Then come back and we'll move on to lesson 4.